This is the Thar, the great Indian desert in Rajasthan, western India, a land which has moulded human lives for centuries. Here life in any form is a symbol of desperate survival. Animals and humans live by whatever they can, following life patterns that often worsen the already bare environment. The process of desertification is continually aggravated, trapping more and more people in the vicious cycle of drought and famine. Except for the Bishnois. Rich and prosperous even in this harsh terrain, the Bishnois are followers of a 500-year-old religion founded by a reformer saint, Sant Jambeshwar. A religion born out of the desert, deeply rooted in environmental beliefs. White clothes, especially white turbans, differentiate Bishnoi men from other Rajasthanis. Mangilal, the singer, is not a Bishnoi. He is a Bhat, the traditional Rajasthani historian. Through a rich oral tradition, Bhats maintain a record of births, deaths, family history, and community events. The client family pays a Bhat in cash or with gifts of camels or cattle. A Bhat is always present on special occasions. Before the records are updated, the entire community settles down to listen to a long song, beginning with Brahma's creation of the world right up to the present day. The tale of the 363 martyrs is a famous legend, placed in the 18th century when the Bishnoi faith was already 250 years old.
Summer was well on its way. The king of Jodhpur had wished for a new palace. Royal servants were looking for wood. There would be enough trees near Bishnoi homes, they thought. They reached Amrita Devi's field. When Amrita Devi saw their axes, she ran to stop them. The king's men ignored her. She clung to the tree and defiantly said, "First my head, then the tree." The men cut off her head. Her daughter standing nearby was shocked. Then they too clung to the tree. Their heads were cut off. The village rose up in revolt. One after another, heads rolled to the ground. People came from nearby villages and sacrificed their lives. 363 men, women and children were dead before the king intervened and proclaimed that in his kingdom no tree shall ever be cut in Bishnoi land.
These martyrs remained community legends until modern environmental consciousness gave their sacrifice a new historical dimension. No plantling grows at this spot, and the Bishnois believe that this is because the earth clings to the blood of her martyrs. Later, this memorial was built where the sacrifice took place, probably the first recorded conscious mass sacrifice for environment in the world. Near the memorial, a grove of trees was planted on Amrita Devi's field in memory of her pioneering example. Bishnoi dedication to plant and animal life has not been diluted with time. For 500 years, on platforms like this, caretakers have laid out feed and water for birds and animals each day of the year. Wherever Bishnoi communities have created such patches of undisturbed nature, blue bulls, black bucks, chinkaras, and other antelopes roam without fear. Bishnois have homes in the villages along with other communities, but they also have special clusters called thandis, nearer their fields and the protected areas of nature. Hunters are scared to poach in these areas because Bishnoi men are very aggressive, and they can pick serious fights when they catch poachers. Fear or respect for a community like the Bishnois today is a far cry from the Rajasthan of 500 years ago. It was an era of petty fights, battles, and illicit practices. Rich nobles lived lives of luxury. The lower classes were exploited into hunger and poverty. Religious orthodoxy was strangling the masses. Every man who could kill became a ruler of a little kingdom, and then went and built forts around himself. Society was ridden with physical and mental barriers. That was the background against which Jambeshwar preached the 29 tenets of the Bishnoi faith. The word Bishnoi itself derives from 29, Bish meaning 20, and Noi 9, Bishnoi. These 29 tenets are recited at various rituals by priests like Sukhdev. Bishnoi priests are supreme in their own village or temple. At a family ritual, Sukhdev is quoting and explaining Jambeshwar's tenets.
Think before you speak. Avoid baseless criticism. Be sympathetic to plants and animals. Don't cut trees. Filter water with a cloth. Don't keep goats as domestic animals. Bathe every morning.
The tenets deal with human relationships, man's attitude towards the earth's resources, moral behavior, physical cleanliness, purity of the soul, and religious practice. There are some similarities between Bishnoi and Vedic Hindu rituals, like the invocation of Vishnu and the worship of fire. But with Bishnois, there is always an essential difference. This fire could as well be a Brahminical fire, but no wood was used to light it, only coconuts along with clarified butter. Jambeshwar preached in local dialects, cloaking his reformism with familiar rituals so as to successfully attract followers from an illiterate and orthodox society. Born in 1451, he belonged to a landlord's family. When his parents died, he abdicated his inheritance. Then, for a long period, he meditated on a sand dune, until he formulated the 29 or Bishnoi tenets. With increasing popularity, Jambeshwar's identity became godlike, and his teachings became the basis of a new religion. Bishnois have their own fairs and festivals, focal points for pilgrimages. Here, the pilgrims are picking the bark of a tree with their fingernails as a sacred memento. The Prosopis cineraria, or khejuri tree, is the Bishnoi symbol of sustenance in the desert. The beginnings of this faith were not easy. Thousands were fleeing Rajasthan in the 15th and 16th centuries, trying to escape death from famine and drought. Jambeshwar began by promising them survival, even prosperity, if they promised to work hard and be patient. He said,
Labor hard with your hands. Follow a path of truth, non-violence, purity, and cleanliness. Maintain nature's balance by using your resources carefully. Man doesn't survive by food alone, but by raising all aspects of living and thinking to the highest standards.
These concepts emerged out of the long period that Jambeshwar meditated at a place called Sambarastal, where pilgrims perform many rituals in his memory today. They scrape out the dry earth, carry it up, drop it on a mound, where the legendary meditation sand dune is said to have been. The whole ritual is meant to recall the endless labor their forefathers undertook in the hope of the prosperity that Jambeshwar promised. The Bishnois are a prosperous community today, many of them rich farmers, milk sellers, or truck owners, often envied by other communities who grudge them their wealth and gold, but they never take their own prosperity for granted. At fairs and festivals, pilgrims perform many soil-related rituals. They raise mounds in the name of each crop and pray for a good harvest. After the harvest, they offer thanks by setting aside 20, 30, 40 kilos of grain for common animal and bird feed granaries. According to Jambeshwar's teachings,
animals have an equal right to the earth's resources. So give it to them. Remember, you live with them on the same planet. So don't deny them their share.
These practices have been maintained since the first Bishnois were initiated, half a century ago. Pal, or water sipping, was the Bishnoi initiation ceremony. Jambeshwar disregarded the caste system. He said,
The color of all blood is red, and the same life flows in all bodies.
He used water to break the barriers of caste, because it was water which was never shared between upper and lower castes, between Hindus and non-Hindus. After Jambeshwar's death, the original reason for the ceremony got lost in orthodoxy. Those who are Bishnois today are in fact descendants of those who were initiated during his time. Although some disciples tried to revive the practice, new initiations did not take place. The Pal ceremony is now a ritual performed within the community. Performed for birth, death, marriage, or postnatal purification ceremonies. and especially for baptizing a newborn child, confirming his Bishnoi antecedents. But where water as a natural resource is concerned, there is no narrowness of purpose amongst the Bishnois. Near villages, it is they who maintain the lakes, desilting the basin every year, planting khejuri trees on the banks. But anyone can use the lakes. Many villagers make a living out of these man-made oases, filling and delivering this water in camel tankers to people who live far away. The attraction to waterholes is the crux of desert life. Water is a scarce commodity, and agriculture in the desert is dependent on unpredictable rainfall. Knowing this, Jambeshwar had widely propagated cattle keeping. Today, it is the backbone of Bishnoi economy. Bishnois supply milk all over Rajasthan, even in times of drought. In good times and bad times, cattle are fed a small fixed amount of khejuri leaves, and this has proved to increase milk yield by 10 to 15%. Even during the severe Rajasthan drought of the 80s, the Bishnois were the one community that did not feel the need to migrate. Many Bishnois are not literate, and they blindly follow the tenets. For them, the simple fact is that this way of life has given enough grain, milk and butter without damaging the environment. A way of life compressed into religious beliefs and teachings which have not failed them. Many couplets of Jambeshwar and his disciples talk of trees, especially the khejuri or Prosopis cineraria.
We should always remain sympathetic to all living things and never cut a green tree. All trees should be nurtured with love, and the khejuri must always be protected.
The khejuri is specially planted within agricultural fields. Its 30 meters deep vertical roots draw water from the subsoil and also enrich the field with nitrate activity. The small leaves allow for the passage of sunlight and provide humus. For a Bishnoi farmer, the khejuri is indispensable for fruit, fodder and agriculture. Multiple cropping is common amongst this community. With just one harvest, they often grow surplus through their careful farming methods. Bishnoi women share the burden of agricultural work. In the villages, they are a force to contend with, both within and outside the community. Over the centuries, they have become the fiercest protectors of the land, the trees and the animals. In essence, of the religion which has provided their families with a prosperous livelihood. According to Bishnoi tenets, a Bishnoi woman is expected to maintain a 30-day postnatal quarantine and a 5-day menstrual quarantine. Apart from that, there is very little that can keep a Bishnoi woman from her community role. Many local anecdotes talk of Bishnoi women who have dragged poachers onto the street and beaten them up, especially if they are misguided Bishnoi men. Within the community, the word of a woman is respected, accepted, and acted upon. Sant Jambeshwar had repeatedly said, there should be a noble and respectful relationship between men and women. Bishnoi women can be visibly impressive about some things and quite simply ignorant about others. Jambeshwar's teachings say,
filter water and milk with a cloth. Before use, free all water, milk and fuel of living things.
This was in an age when the microscope was not invented, nor bacteria discovered. For these illiterate women, microscopes and bacteria still do not exist. And so they happily follow filtration as a religious practice. Like most women in India, Bishnoi women also spend a large part of their day collecting water and fuel. But the search for fuel is characterized by an essential difference. A Bishnoi woman does not cut fuel wood. Instead, she walks near lakes and grazing areas for hours, looking for dung. Between her and the children, they collect and dry the dung, then heap it in a common storage ground. Families pick dried cakes from their personal heaps every day and carry it home for fuel. The tenet says, don't cut a green tree. But a Bishnoi woman may often bypass even dry trees. Sometimes they do take home fallen dried twigs and branches. The effort towards discipline is in the mind. An attitude that successive generations have not wavered from, acknowledging the validity of the philosophy that Jambeshwar propagated.
Listen with care. If you live moderately, shun greed and work hard, this earth will always bear fruit. You will always have enough and more. Remember that. Be prudent and you will be happy.
Which they are, with enough food, enough money, enough gold, and an undamaged environment. No intoxicants, Jambeshwar had said, but these lovers of nature like to live life, and they love their rounds of opium to celebrate a happy occasion.
छोड़ दे अटिन मुन्ना आजा अटिना मुन्ना 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 ए मुन्ना आया अटिन ले लो रोटी खा जा लो घर
Over the years, Bishnois have influenced other communities to love and nurture life as well, like this non-Bishnoi family living alongside them. 2 deer were lying injured in their field. The family brought them home, and here they are, just like any other family member. Like Amrita Devi's great sacrifice for the trees, there are many legends amongst the Bishnois about how women have breastfed injured baby deer, how poachers have been beaten up and made to pay heavy fines in grain, how men keep vigil all night in some sanctuaries, how some foreign dignitaries were told to get out of the country and not hunt in Bishnoi areas. Behind all these anecdotes is a collective faith that all plant and animal life must be allowed to live, that life in any form is precious and worth any sacrifice, even one's own life.